It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah, baby. Whew, my microphone is hot. Let me take care of that, and let's say a special welcome to a dear friend of mine and today's guest, Miss Kim Tibs. Get that microphone tweaked. All right, there we go. All good. Hello, everybody in the chat room. I am so excited that you guys get to spend the next 90 minutes with the amazing Miss Tibbs. We've known each other almost 2 years, but I'm going to read you just a little section of bio. I sent you guys the link to the full bio in the email that went out to like 120,000 people or something. But the short version, really short version, is Kim Tibs is an accomplished songwriter, arranger, artist, multi-instrumentalist, singer, performer, engineer, and producer who loves everything about creating music, and I know that to be a fact. Kim and I share a mutual love of all things related to studio, engineering, production, and anything analog and old. And we became fast friends when we first met on that very subject. She's also gained international acclaim with each of her albums and singles, regularly reaching top positions on international soul charts. She's already had 2 number 1 albums on the UK soul charts, and her brand new record is destined to be a chart topper as well, hitting number 13 right out of the gate. Yeah, baby. I was delighted to get that text from you. And she also happens to be like a world-class Hammond B3 player, and there just aren't many of those. And she's an endorsed artist by Hammond. She plays the NAMM show and all kinds of gigs for them all over the place. But the headline in the email was, how did this taxi member get feedback from Stevie Wonder? And I promise you we're going to get to that. So once again, let's welcome Kim Tibs. Hello. I'll switch ears here. So Kim did a thing at last year's road rally, which I couldn't go to because I was in the ballroom, but a couple people near the end of the road rally said, "Oh, thank you so much for having Kim Tibs do that thing on manifesting." And I went, "Oh, yeah, crap, I forgot to ask her about that. How did it go?" And then for like a week after the road rally, I kept getting little emails from people and people mentioning it on the forum, I think. So I asked I asked Kim if she would join us on the show today to kind of rekindle this whole thing about manifesting, because I have never met anybody in my life that understands manifestation and practices it and gets results like nobody's business like Kim does. So I haven't let you say a word yet.
I know, it's okay.
Well, there's a lot we have to cover before we turn you loose on them.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think all of us have heard the phrase, hope is not a strategy. Yet millions, probably a few billion people around the world just hope for the outcome that they want. Many musicians have hope as a strategy, where they do hope that somebody will hear their music and love it and whisk them away on a magic carpet and make everything in their life, all their little dreams come true. I personally don't have a lot of faith in hope. But can you tell us what the difference is between hoping for something and manifesting it? Isn't that a good first question?
That's a good first question. Okay. So if I'm hoping to get to whatever dream that I have, you can hope for something all day long. But in order to manifest, you actually have to put forth effort. You have to be able to visualize. You have to be able to put in work. I can say all day long, "Oh, I hope I can win a Grammy." But the work that has to go between getting a hit record, getting a hit song, getting it to the point where the masses believe in your material, getting it on radio, getting it to get, the catch the attention of those peers that vote. There's so many small steps in between that you have to take. So I can hope all day long that I can win a Grammy, but if I'm doing work and I'm actively taking constructive criticism, if I'm actively seeking advice from industry professionals that have been doing it longer than I have, and just actually working on my craft, now my dream is not a hope or a wish. It's now an active duty that I'm actually working toward to manifest.
I'm getting
Um,
people in the chat room asking if you could manifest more volume on your mic. I just jacked you up. Every control I've got, I put
oh,
on 10.
hold on. Okay, wait a minute. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, good. I'm adjusting it now. I'm sorry, y'all. We were trying to get all of this together, and yeah. Tell me if you can hear me better.
I can hear you, but you're speaking a little more softly, so it's hard to tell.
Wait, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
How's that, guys, in the chat room? Much better.
Much better? Okay. All right.
All right.
So, okay. Sorry. We're back.
All right, we're back. We're golden.
Yes, we're
All right.
Okay.
So repeat that last little summary that you had about the difference between hope and
the difference
manifesting.
between hoping and manifesting. So, again, I gave the example of if you're an artist and you want to win a Grammy Award, there's so much work that has to be done in order to get to that point. You have to have team upon teams, but you also have to catch the attention of those that would vote for you. And in order to get to that point, you have to have a plan. You have to have a timeline. You have to have a series of events that take place where something is happening at every given part of the day to get you to that manifesting that Grammy. Now, I can hope for something all day long, but if I'm actively working and I'm actively pursuing it, if I'm visualizing it and I'm dreaming about it, I'm constantly writing about it, or I'm constantly saying to myself, hey, you're going to get this particular item that you're wanting. For me, I just gave an example of a Grammy Award. You have to put it in present tense. You can't say one day because it doesn't give you an end to the timeline. But if you put the emphasis of now, right now, soon, that gives you a little bit more of a leeway to now plan toward that end goal. Now, that is a huge example. But in my class, I gave the example to everyone. I asked the question, when you get ready to leave this classroom, what are you going to do? Everybody started talking about, I'm going to go home. I'm going to try to do better on my production. I'm going to try to do better on my writing. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to do better on forming teams. But everyone failed to realize that you have to physically get up from the desk, turn to the right or left, and leave the classroom.
I'm surprised they didn't say I'm going to the lobby bar to grab a beer. That would have been.
And so these small steps are often what's missed, and that's the opportunity for you to gain, that momentum. And you also have to be very, very mindful of congratulating yourself while you're in this process. So, yes, I hope for a Grammy Award. Yes, I hope for all kinds of things. But until I get to that point, I'm going to hope that, for example, right now, I have new music out. I'm going to hope that people like it. I'm going to hope that they like my home productions and really gravitate to it. And so in my hoping, I'm also going to continue manifesting that they keep reaching different audiences. How do I do that? I'm actively thinking about it. I'm actively writing about it. I'm actively doing the work to get it out there. People don't have to worry about, your music getting seen and heard if you're putting work, if you're actively sending it to people. So it's the small steps that I wanted people to realize. There's small in-between things that oftentimes are the diamonds, and those are the lessons that we're missing in our manifesting, or the thought of manifesting, because we're not focusing on that little in-between step. We want the big picture at the end, but we don't know how we're going to get there. Well, it's the small step that gets you there.
How did you learn how to identify what the small things are? Because if the answer that you got from the whole room wasn't the right answer when you asked them, how do you have confidence that, and I'm not picking on the people that were in that class, I'm talking about humanity in general. I don't know that I would pick the right things. So how did you learn to know the little things and create those steps to get to the ultimate goal of what you're manifesting?
Okay, so the very first thing that I had to do is, after I kept making all of the wrong mistakes and the wrong decisions and the wrong turns, I had to sit back and I had to think about, what is it that I have inside of me that keeps me always making that wrong decision, making the wrong turn. And at that point, and I don't know if this is something that resonates with any of you in the chat, but I started thinking about every single time that I was let down, that I was hurt, that I felt abandoned, that I felt neglected, that I felt rejection, that I got no's, that made me have self-esteem issues at that time, confidence issues. I thought about every time that I have been going to people and giving them music, I didn't have energy behind it. I didn't even believe in myself at that time when I was giving this, what I felt like was good production. But if I was nervous, I didn't feel like it was good enough. So I'm giving stuff that I didn't even believe in. And I went down the list of all of the things from childhood up. And this is a boohoo session, by the way. And I just took every single thing that I felt was a major impact on why I'm the way I am, why I do certain things the way that I do, why I have fears at that time. And I wrote it. I wrote everything out that I could remember, how I felt, what hurt my feelings. If it was people that were involved, I wrote about the people. Some I liked, some I didn't. But after that, I then had to turn around and I asked a simple question. What could I have done to make that situation better? And I wrote all of that out.
Wow. How long did that? I mean, you didn't do that in one night, did you?
It was months of it. It was months of it. I just felt like I needed to kind of write this journey of, here's everything that's happened. What could I have done about it? And then the last thing that I did was I wrote a false story that was a happy ending. I made my own mathematical equation of all of the craziness that I did not heal over time. So I had a numerator, a denominator, and then boom, there's an equal sign, and then bam, I canceled out my transactions one by one. Each equation I got rid of. And when I unpacked all of this stuff that I felt like I hadn't healed over, that I hadn't forgiven myself over, that I had not forgiven others over, then I started talking to myself about, now what is it that I like? What do I like to do? Where can I see myself in a few years, a few months even? What's my favorite color? What kind of car would I get in that color? Where would I want to live? If I had a choice to live somewhere else. And I just started doing that. And over time, pouring back into myself. And this is, I will say this in the chat, guys. This is not something that can be done overnight. If you really, really want to see in-depth change, you have to first invest in yourself. So this is like a person that's going on a weight loss journey and they say, I want to lose 50 pounds. Well, they're not going to lose 50 pounds in the first day. But if they start working at it after a month, they're going to see change. After 2 months, they're going to see change. After 3 months, they're going to see a big change. Well, if you're taking all of the negative baggage that you've been holding on for years, cortisol levels go down. Your stress changes. You're happier. You go to sleep and you feel like you've gotten up the next day rested. Instead of you playing all of the negativity, all the bad thoughts, now you're thinking about all of the things that you're dreaming of, that you're seeking. Your relationships become better. People that you probably have been holding grudges against for years, the toxic energy, when you let go of it, you can say, I'm sorry, or you can ask for forgiveness, or you can apologize and then turn around and then you can forgive as well. I mean, make this resonate to you whichever way.
How did you even know to go down this road? Did you go to a class? Did you have a therapist? Did you read a book? Something? Or did you literally come up with Hey, I know what I need to do all by your lonesome?
I was in a really bad place. I was in a bad place in my career. And one thing that I am very, very devout is I meditate. I pray a lot. And as I was, this is probably around the time when my dad passed in 2010.
And you were
Um,
very close with your dad, right?
Very close to my dad. Daddy
Yeah.
was instrumental in my entirety of why I am a musician, to why I love music so much. So when I felt like I lost my cheerleader,
Mm.
it was dark times. It was getting over divorce. It was I'm raising a child by myself. It's my father's gone. It's what do I do?
Wow.
And at that point, when I felt like everything at every point of my life was all over the place, I was like, okay, obviously you have me here for a reason, God. What is that reason? Because I'm thinking in my mind, I might be worth more dead than alive. So we need to change these thoughts. I need you to speak to me. And then I remember feeling like an impulse of trust me, trust me, I have you on a journey. You're going to feel like a widowed woman. You're going to feel hollow on the inside,
Hmm.
but I have you on a journey. And I have you on this journey because in the end, once you figure out what it is that I want you to say, then you'll be able to help other people. And so it's like at that point, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm hearing voices. I'm feeling impulses. What's happening? And instead of me getting nervous about it, I did like some of the personnel that we have in the Bible. I started to write what I felt, and little messages that would come to me, I would write it. I would often wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Instead of being nervous about that, I would take time to just pray. Okay, I'm up. What is it that you want me to do? And so it was almost like I had to really go through this process of like a fine tune my ear to know when I'm getting a spiritual message versus Kim saying this, Kim's feeling this. And I remember the very day that I said, okay, I want to become a songwriter. I've worked with all of these people in the industry. I've sat in rooms with the very people that created what we call iconic soul music, rock and roll, shared stages with some of the biggest names in music. And I've kind of seen how they did it because for me, I'm in my 40s. I was watching people that did the music from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, sitting under that crowd where musicianship was real, where you had to be able to play the first note and end on the same note. And so I saw it and it was embedded in me. And I kind of got in my own mind one day, I think I want a studio. I think I need to be able to have a studio to be able to get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning if I have an idea. Because often that's when a lot of the songs that I've written or ideas come to me early in the morning. And so I remember just writing out my dreams. I wrote a letter to myself and I poured into myself in this letter how much I mean to the world, how much I mean to my family, how much I mean to my friends, and how I'm here where I'm supposed to be, even though it's a hurtful place, even though it's critical, even though it's painful, but I'm right where I need to be because I am in a season of learning. And I humbled myself to learn. A lot of times, people that are in careers like ours, we don't want to take the time to humble ourselves and learn. Like, it's bad if you sit down and you let someone else assist you. When in fact, in my situation, sitting in old studios in Muscle Shoals in Memphis, California, New York, Paris, London, I'm sitting with people who made the music that we loved, that created music even. And so you'd be crazy to not sit there and soak it up. And my love of analog gear alone and studios and consoles and stuff, it was just like a dream. And I wanted more and more of that. So I said yes to that. I said, that's my calling. That's what I want to do. I want more of that. I want to do that all the time. I want to have this feeling, the feeling of I just hit the lottery every time I walk out of a really amazing studio session. And that's what I started writing about. put down in my dreams. I wrote in this letter how I want to have more of the amazing feelings of accomplishments. I want to have the feeling of being successful. I want to have the feeling of, hey, there's room for a Kim Tibs, a songwriter. I wanted to have the confidence to say, this is my sound. Take it or leave it. I said to myself, you are beautiful. You are loved. And people are going to fall in love with your sound, but you got to love it first, Kim. I even started putting sticky notes up on my mirrors. My bathroom mirror is covered with pink sticky notes, because I have to remind myself every day I'm on a journey still.
I've got to tell you, I spent a couple hours researching manifesting, probably 2 hours before we hooked up to go live on this. And here's some key steps to start manifesting. Clarity of intention, visualization, positive affirmations, a vision board of sorts, journaling, gratitude practice, which I know you definitely do, and taking action. And I mean, literally, it's like you figured it out on your own and got it so right. That probably had more value, because anything we learn on our own that we didn't just see a bullet pointed list is going to internalize and stay with you more. So yay you. Kim and I have only known each other since the 2023 Road Rally. I mean, we talked on the phone a few times before that. She's actually director of sales for Here Technologies, which has been a sponsor twice now at the Road Rally. By the way, check out Here Technologies, a little product plug because I love their products. And this, I didn't want to do this at all today, but I got to say, the headphone mixers that you see in virtually every major studio around the world come from Here Technologies. And Kim has been to 2 road rallies, just amazing. But that's not the point of today's thing. And so you figured all this out on your own. How did you not ping pong back and forth between, is it this that is my destiny or that's my... How do you know when you found the thing, versus having 3 things? Well, okay, but I want this more than that. So now I've got 3 things, but this is the big one. And I got these couple little ones. How do you straighten all that out?
Let me tell you what I had to do to straighten that out. I had to stop listening to other people.
How do you do that?
Oh, okay, for me. All right.
For anybody.
Circle back many years. Before I took on this challenge of doing my own studio and doing my own thing, I was going from studio to studio to studio to studio to studio. Great studios. And studios are just like buying a car. There's high end, and then there's not so high end. There's in between. There's economy based. There's electric. So for whatever your tastes are for studios, it's out there. And I kept taking my sound, and everybody kept telling me, oh, that sounds dated. Oh, you need to change that. Or is it supposed to be repetitive? Or are you supposed to have the organ out front? You need to tuck it. And so everybody kept trying to tell me what my sound needs to sound like. No lie. My very first album, I have about 12 different versions of the album.
All guided by
all of the different places that I kept going. And I finally was like, you know what? When I got really upset the very last time, that is when I said, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And so this is right around the time when I started going through and saying, okay, Kim, you're listening to everybody else. Why are you listening to everybody else? Why are you paying attention? Why are you so afraid? And then the thing that came to me was because I've never done it before. And when I sat back and thought about it, you've never done it before. Okay, so if you fail, at least you have a blueprint of something to go by. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the things that you did wrong, then you'll fix the things moving forward to do right. So what happened? I had an accidental album that came out many years ago that you will not find. Don't try it, guys. It's not out there. I scratched and pulled it. I'm talking about, it was the worst ever. Could have been done well, but I just did it. I said, oh my God, I did it. I had every single song on the album time-stamped exactly the same. Meaning, if a song ended at 3 minutes and 1 second, it's going to end 5 minutes and 18 seconds because I did everything bounced down to the longest track.
Oh man.
I made some critical errors, y'all. And I'm not too proud to say that. But after I said, okay, that didn't go so well. Oh, okay, that didn't go so well. All right. You actually have to do something in order to know if you did it wrong. And that's
Right.
what I'm trying to tell you. I hope y'all are laughing in the chat because I can't see it.
There's a little delay, so they're not laughing yet, but you can judge by the look on my face that it was pretty darn funny.
And
But
so,
you're so right.
but once I did that, I said, okay, next round, we need to do a little bit better and being professional. So let's gonna move up and move out and go do this stuff at real professional studios. And I think around that time is when I got my first major deal overseas. I cracked the code on what my sound was. Now, I don't know what your sound is, guys, but for me, I'm a Hammond artist. I'm a B3 organist. There's not many lady players out there, especially not many that Hammond Organ or Hammond Europe support. And so I'm very thankful to them and very thankful to my other companies that I'm endorsed with. But for me, when I play a Hammond B3 organ and I sing from it. So I knew I had to do something that centers that, because that for me is what I'm signaturely known for. And I love old school music. I love guitars. I love acoustic. I love piano, whirlies, Rhodes. I know I love good percussion, love horns, strings. It doesn't matter. Good backgrounds. And I thought about it. There's not a lane right now that's available for true soul music, or is it? And I said, well, the only way I'll know is if I start putting stuff out. So around that time in 2016 is when I started putting out my music. And first song I put out, I did it wrong. But I learned from it. I learned a lot of lessons. However, it caught the attention of a very well-known DJ that was overseas in Europe. And he asked me would I send the song to him. And I didn't know who he was. I was like, sure. It was on SoundCloud. The very next day, I had over 3,500 spins.
Wow.
And then 10 days from that, it ended up being number 23 on the UK soul charts. Then number 4. And then I had my first number 1 single. And I didn't know what to do from there. I was like, oh my God, wait. Okay, what do I do? Put more music out. So what I felt like was an accidental moment was actually my destiny. And I felt like it was receiving the universal blessing of do it, because I put my fears aside and I did it. And I took a chance. And I was not wealthy, guys. I didn't have a whole lot of money. So I utilized free tutorials. There's a bunch of free things out there that you can do to get yourself out there. And I'm one of them that did it. And it just happened to do well for me. So I manifested that moment because I said, oh, wow, what would it feel like if I had a number 1 song? I wrote that letter. And that's one thing that I put on my letter. But you're not just writing these letters to yourselves just to write them. You're actually writing it because you're believing everything that you're putting on that paper. You're visualizing it. You're time stamping it because you want it to be now. And then you're going through the long list of everything that you just could see for you. And if you're living a life that's positive, that's sowing seeds, watering the grass as you sow them, and you're giving of yourself, you're giving to be good without looking for anything in return, it's going to come back to you even faster. And so accidentally putting out a bad album, accidentally putting out a song that actually went number 1, I cracked my code. And at that point, I had to really, really start thinking, okay, wait, this is happening fast. So the second song I put out went to number 1. The third song I put out went to number 1. The fourth song I put out went number 1. The fifth and the 6th and the 7th went number 1. By the time all this happened, I had manifested a whole label and put an album out that went number 1. And so, but I wrote this love letter to myself, and I said, Kim, we're going to love us the way we want someone else to love us. We're going to love us the way we want people to love us. and we're going to love us the way we want people to receive us, because you want people to receive the love that you are while you're giving the love that you are.
Normally,
So
I would say that's all a bunch of woo woo, but I know you, and I've seen you are the living proof I needed in my life to know that this stuff works. Because unless you've spoken to somebody that worked for, or witnessed them having it work for them, you just think it's like something out of a self-help book. Won't work for me. Or you make the list, and by the time you get to number 3 on the list, it hasn't worked out as fast as you wanted it to. You tuck your tail between your legs and go home. So you are not only inspiring to me, but I know, I mean, Kim and I stay in touch, and I get text messages from her. I'm in New York, and I just got called by 2 major labels today that want to meet with me tomorrow. It's wow. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to jump in there.
The important thing that I need you to understand is there's steps. Can't write a love letter to yourself until you remove all this stuff out of you that's not love. So it's a very important moment for you guys that are watching. If you've never ever sat down and thought about your life in totality, thought about everything you've been through, and really sat back and thought about all the things that you thought you healed over, and then thought back, did I heal? For you guys that are parents, you know, you're very, very, very watchful of your children. And I know you are, Michael. You know, I am with my son. But when you look back when they're babies, you're so careful. You don't want to hold them the wrong way. You don't want to change their diaper the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But as they grow and you see, okay, wait, they're a little tougher. Okay, now I can handle them a little bit different. But as my son now is an adult, I'm like looking back at, wow, the time. Where's the time gone? I say this to say, as a mom, I'm always going to first think rationally about love. I don't think anything else. I think love. When I see my son, I see love because I know our background. I shared some of my background with you. But for me, I wake up with love on my mind. I go to sleep with love on my mind. And so in order for me to stay in that realm during the day, I have to get to love. If that's writing, if that's sowing seeds, if that's talking to people, interacting with strangers, either way, some kind of way, I'm going to manifest something crazy during the day. Whether it's going to a store and imagining, hey, there's a parking space up in the front for me, and it's raining, and it always happens. Dang, I wish the light would be green by the time I leave my house, and it always is. I mean, manifesting is simple. It's not hard. It's all about what you do with your mind, guys. Your brain is so powerful. It is so powerful. But it's how you're using it. And it's how you're not using it. And I promise you, the sooner that you begin unpacking everything that would be in your subconscious, the subconscious areas, because subconsciously, even though we can go to sleep, if you listen to music or if you listen to things, subconsciously you can hear and understand everything in your brain. So imagine if you're thinking bad stuff, you're pumping this stuff around all night and you're pumping it as soon as you get up because you're still in that subconscious realm. So the sooner that you get confident in yourself, because again, this is a weight loss journey. I gave that as an example. It's a weight loss journey. We're going to lose all of the baggage, all of the bad stuff that we've been holding on to, whether that's 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, or a ton. And we're going to dump it off. But as we dump it off, you're going to feel freer. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I can accomplish anything. I can change the world. You can. Now you have to pull all of the stuff out of you to put back into you, like good things, love, positivity. Trust, foundation, and it's almost like, you know how people can say probiotics, those are the good antibiotics that we can use and put in our system. So oftentimes when you go through a process where you detox, and I don't know for any of the health junkies like me, a lot of times I'll take a couple of days and I'll take all of the purging my system of things, whether it's water, whether it's a juice cleanse, whatever. But then I'll turn around and I'll put probiotics because it's the good antibiotics back in my system. Well, it's the same thing as the art of releasing all of your baggage. In order to manifest, you got to release the bad stuff because you got to make room for all of the major stuff that you want to return and come back to you. If that makes sense, because I can't see the chat. But it's simple, but it's complex because you have to be your own teacher in this process. There's no right or wrong. You have to be able to say, did I heal from this? Did this hurt me? And this is a private situation. This is nothing you share with people. If you want to share it, that's fine. But this is something that's an intimate setting because it's almost like you are taking time to rediscover who you are. And for some of you that don't know who you are, this might lead to finding out, oh, that's me.
Yeah, try this little exercise. Put this down for an hour a night. Instead of scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, do what Kim is talking about. Get to know yourself. Because that is something I learned going through a divorce almost 40 years ago, is I didn't know who I was. And going through the divorce, no longer living with my then wife and my kids who were really little at the time. And eventually I ended up in a tiny little studio apartment. And all I had was a mattress, an alarm clock, and a funky old TV sitting on a cardboard box, and like 6 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, and clean underwear and socks. That was my whole life. And I remember thinking I've never been happier in my life than I was the first night I lived in that apartment, because it was the first time I ever took a beat to think about me and get to know myself. So I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah. It's scary to a person that has never done it before. But personally for me, I rediscover me every day. There's new versions of Kim every day. Every week there's something else because I discover that I like this, or I like that, or I'm good at this, or wow. But it's a situation where you have to exercise patience. This is what the real undertone of rediscovering yourself is. You learn the most amazing ability of patience. When I say patient, I mean patient, because there may be days where one topic will take you, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages. And if I were to be transparent, I'm reaching and I didn't touch the microphone.
No, but your audio sounded great when you were that close to it. Wow.
Guys, look at this. This is my latest unpacking.
Wow, that's longer than Jeffrey Epstein's flight log.
It's 194 pages. You guys think this is a joke? I'm dead serious.
No, nobody's laughing in the chat room. They're saying things like, "Yes, this makes sense."
Much, I had to change pens. I got purple ink, red ink, black ink, blue ink, pencil. I'm showing you as a witness.
It is interesting that you wrote it out. They say the stuff you write out longhand touches your brain in ways that you can't when you're typing. And was that
I date it. You always put the time in the date because that's your timestamp. Guys,
was it a conscious choice on your part to write it longhand versus typing it?
Yes, because when you write it longhand, it helps you with your writing, believe it or not. It helps you to know plurals, consonants, vowels, nouns, verbs. It helps you to go back to Old English, and it also helps you to be able to work on your penmanship. So for me, a lot of times I'm only...
That was gone 20 years ago, but okay.
For me, a lot of times I'm only signing things.
Yeah.
I'm putting an electric signature on stuff, especially with here. I'm like, I rarely write anything. And so for me, guys, I kid you not. Okay, so I'll give you another transparent moment. So here's my journal. I have a bag that comes with me. It doesn't matter where I am. I'll have my journal. I keep, see the pencil? I like to
Mm.
write in pencil in my journal just in case I need to change something. But on the reflection letters, I call them, I write them in pen because I can't change anything. That means that this is my feelings. This means that this is how I feel, and you're going to feel it and you're going to know, because once you start it, words begin to flow, tears begin to follow. And after you get past page 5 or 6, your hands don't hurt anymore because you're used to writing.
Hmm.
And there's some days I might write 20, 30 pages a day. But if it's a particular thing, like this is a major thing that I had to really write about, I'm on 194. I probably have a best-selling authoring book right now if I were to release it.
I'm amazed only because I know you well enough to know how Kim is always on the road, it seems. Travels a lot and has to be well prepared when she gets to her destination, because she could be doing the NAMM show, she could be doing the AES show. These are big shows. I mean, their booth at the Taxi Road Rally has a lot of stuff on it, but it's probably a fraction of what you set up for NAMM or AES or something on that grand scale. How do you find the time to do this stuff? Also, I mean, she has a studio in her house that anybody would be
I
envious.
don't use this that much. That's the secret. I
I'm
rarely
guessing.
watch TV.
I was going to say, you didn't watch the entirety of Tiger King during the lockdown?
No, during the lockdown, I was in the studio. I was writing. I was recording.
um,
I am. I think
Tell
I'm
them
just.
what you've got in your studio.
Oh, guys. Oh boy. Okay. So
I
in
mean,
the
you don't have to
studio.
name every microphone, but I mean, tell them what you've got for a tape machine and some other
So
cool
our
stuff.
first conversation that I had with Michael was supposed to be a hi. I'm interested in the road rally. We're such and 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 such, and we really, 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 really believe in this. We would like to be sponsors. That conversation went from 2 minutes to 2.5 hours. And I don't know for the life of me what happened, but I think you asked me the question. What do you do? You got to have some kind of a musical something, because you work for a well known, audio mixing monitoring company. So what do you do? And then, oh my God, well, the first thing I said is, well, I'm professionally endorsed with 54 companies, and one of them is Hammond Organ. Once I said Hammond Organ, conversation moved from taxi to studio. And we got
That's
to
true.
talking about everything from Criteria to Abbey Road to, you name it, the Beatles, soul music. And then I don't know what happened. I think you showed me a picture of like a studio you had back in the day.
It was probably a picture of like maybe the guitar rig when I was working with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or
Okay.
some. Yeah, I've never
Okay.
personally owned a studio in my house. I've always worked in like large format, big console pro studios. But yeah.
Well, then I accidentally said, oh, this is so amazing. Well, this is my home studio. And I said, bing. And Michael was like, holy cow, that's in your house? I was like, yes, because I really, really, really loved this, and that. And I had to have this, and that, because I saw this, and that in that studio. And I had to have this, that, and that, because as a player for keyboards, I had to have a wall of this. And so, okay, so I have 3 different Hammond products. And one of them is my 57 B3 122 Leslie cabinet. A very famous rock star owned it. And I just happened to obtain it because somebody was looking for a new owner that was a Hammond artist at the time while I was in Baltimore living.
Wow.
Organ was deposited from Philadelphia, and then they told me, boom, do you know this is the actual original organ that was with blah blah blah, and my mouth dropped. It's original 57 parts. Then I have a original Bill Beard 1972 crop B3 that's absolutely amazing. And then I also have a new XK5 double top with the Hammond portable pedals, portable Leslie, and that's just the organs. But then I have a analog wall, y'all, of you name it, it's there. Toys of fun. Then I got Michael at the fact that he says, "Wait, hold on, you have a tape machine." I was like, "Yes, I do. I have a 24. I have the 2-inch 24 track, and then I have the 8-inch. The 1-inch 8 channel.
8 track. Your 2 inch is an MCI, right?
It's an MCI.
Which, for those of you who have known me outside of Taxi or known me longer than Taxi, that's the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 years of my career. Everything I worked on was MCI. They were like kind of the General Motors of audio manufacturers in the United States. It was Harrison and MCI were the U.S. brands that stuck out. Neve was English, but wasn't universally loved like it is now. It took a while for Neve to really catch on. It was kind of thought of as being old school, not so classic at the time. And then SSL came around in the very late 70s or 80, 81, somewhere around there. And everybody went, "Oh my God, that's beautiful. And the signal flow is so awesome. And it's so easy. The workflow is great." And MCI kind of fell off the map. But it's funny, now in retrospect, those MCI 2-inch tape machines, they sounded good. I wasn't in love with their 600 series console, but I did like the tape machines. They were reliable. There were a lot of cool tricks you could do with them, and they sounded good as long as the input and output cards were seated properly and adjusted properly. They sounded great. So I'm glad to see they're making a comeback. And I still say, for anybody who dreams of doing analog, record your rhythm track on 2-inch analog tape, then bounce it over to digital, do all of your overdubs over there, because it is faster and easier. But there's nothing like a kick drum, a snare drum, or great sounding guitar on analog. Anyway, I don't want to suck your time. This is about you.
No, but that's the thing. So you made a major point, right? So the reason why I had this design in my head on what my studio would be like in my home is because visually I was going all over the place to studios. Oh my God.
How wasn't that torture for you? That seeing all these world-class studios. I mean, those rooms usually cost anywhere from $1.5 million to $3 million a room to build out. So
it wasn't torture for me because I knew I was taking little bits and pieces and little nuggets from everywhere. And so I turned my theater room upstairs into this place. I call it like the adult Candyland, because as soon as you hit the top of the steps, it's like, where do I go first? Do I go to the rack of guitars, basses? Do I go to the console? Do I go to the wall? It's like a mad space, but it's a commercial space. I got everything in there that I thought I would need, that I saw, and things that I used in other studios. I said, okay, I like that. That sounds good with my vocals. And so this sounds good with the Hammond. So, all right, vintage microphones, got to get them on the Leslies. That kind of thing. I was just visualizing from my space, this is what I need to do. And then I was like, well, now how do I get all this in this house without my neighbors knowing that I'm actually operating a commercial space and not getting phone calls about the noise? So then I started doing research. And then I started going back and visualizing, okay, well, in my video, I saw that they had this kind of like padding and, studio this and foaming. Do I need to do that? And so I cracked the code on my sound. Like the 2 new songs that I have out currently right now, I recorded those in my house. You would not think that I recorded them in my house.
They actually sound like they were done at Muscle Shoals in 1974. I mean, they really truly sound classic, and or not quite Stax Records, but yeah, very authentic. And it's not like it sounds like you tried to be authentic. That's just who you are.
Well, they didn't have a whole lot of girls that played a B3 organ and sang from it back in the 60s, 50s, 70s, even 80s even. I don't even know if they've really had anybody that really commercially made that instrument, bam. So that's why everybody hears it and they're like, wait, it's different. It's like almost soul, almost gospel.
Even your engineering sounds appropriate for the vibe. You know what I mean? Some people think that great engineering is making everything sound great. Sometimes, no, you never need it to sound great. You need to sound great in context with everything else. It's not that each instrument on its own needs to sound great. It's all about context and balance. You are multi-instrumental, right?
Yes,
Like you could play everything on the record.
I can play everything on the record.
And were
Which
you
is
always multi-instrumental, like from your child? Your dad was musical. Your dad was a pastor, right?
My daddy was a pastor, but he was a very talented musician. And so growing up, I had access to a Hammond organ, piano. I was playing piano before I was tall enough to actually touch the actual pedals. And so, but being that I loved music so much, I picked up other instruments because I know how to read music. So it was easy for me to pick up. As a matter of fact, when I was an undergrad, Mrs. Day taught me how to play acoustic guitar. She was 87 years old at the time. She was
Wow.
Cuban. And so, stickler, she would tap your hand if you didn't have to hold it right, you know. But that one class made me take off with that, which also made me have a deep love for the bass, which is the first four, strings of the guitar. And so from there, it was a love of, I also knew how to play clarinet. So it was transposing to playing other things. Once you know one stringed instrument, it's kind of easy to know the next. And so, but being in the right spaces at the right time helped me to know placement of the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have room in your production to allow for things to breathe.
Yeah, we spent a good half hour talking about that the first time we spoke at any length. It's most people don't get that. I remember I told you, and you said, I'm going to write this down. I said, my dad told me this in reference to something else in life. He says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I always applied that to my productions, which is, yeah, we could add a harmonica part, but that's just one more thing to clutter it up. It's great. The part is great, but we don't need it. And
Right.
You intuitively grasp that.
Well, it took a while because at first when I started doing production, oh God, everything was just dumped in there, throw it in there, just mix it up like a bag of potato. But then as I started getting criticisms constructively, some I took, others I didn't, but for the parts where it became very important as far as frequencies, gain staging. I think I had a whole argument over gain staging.
I'm telling you, this is like audio pornography for me. I'm sorry, this is going to sound horribly sexist, but there are far fewer women in audio, and I'm not a fan of that at all. I don't see that gender has anything to do with it, but when a woman starts talking about gain staging and EQ curves, it's like... Anyway, but you talked about getting feedback, which brings me to the headline for today's show is one day Kim calls me up because she calls, and I'm always afraid to call her because of the time difference. And she's like, I'm a musician. I don't sleep. But she called me one day and she's shrieking into the phone. I met Stevie Wonder. So tell the story, because this is great. And now you've got entree with him to get feedback on your stuff. And you manifested this.
I manifested this. Okay, so guys, picture it. It was NAMM.
Mm-hmm.
It was last year's NAMM.
2023 NAMM. Well, 2024, yeah.
24. And so we're at the booth, and then all of a sudden I see people running. And I was like, ew, why are they running? Wait, I didn't hear gunshots, so it's not anything bad. So I got my phone. And, if you're at trade shows, you're limited to electronic, devices where you can plug everything up. So I was like, oh, dang, let me get my USB and plug it in while nobody's looking, unplug something, and then plug it back after I get enough charge. So I looked at my phone. I was like, okay, I'm at 85%. I remember it. And I'm going towards this crowd. And as I get closer and closer to the crowd, I was like, what the heck is going on? And then I hear it. And I was like, that's Stevie Wonder. And I knew it was him because I could hear him playing at this particular booth. And I told this in this story in the classroom. So I'm standing there, and I started moving past people, pushing out the way. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I got to where there's all of these security people, and there's all the NAM workers in the blue shirts. And I was like, dang, it's a barricade. I can't get around. And I'm like really trying to angle my phone. And then finally, this man walks up to me, and he's like, I found you. And I was like, what? Move! I'm trying to get to Stevie. And he's like, I kid you not. I was like, move! I'm trying to get to Stevie Wonder. And he was like, what do you do? And I was like, music, like everybody in here. You know, I was really at like attitude moment because he was like right in my space, like, you know. And we're still kind of coming off of COVID. So I was like, bro, listen, I mean, right. I don't know who you are, but I'm from the South, but I do know how to put hands on people. And this is 42 years of steel. You don't want to get hit by them. So he was just like, no, seriously, what's your name? And I was like, hello, everybody has a name tag. And he said, you're funny. And I was like, really being serious. And I was like, I'm really trying to get to Stevie. So by this time, it looks like he was moving. And he was like, I found you because as soon as you cut the radius, I could smell you. And I'm like, what? He said, I could smell your fragrance. I know you're special because you're wearing a fragrance from my country. It's a special oud that's only grown in the royal gardens.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, how do you know that? And I'm looking at him like, who is this? He's like Scruff McGruff with the beard and all this. And finally, he grabs my hand gently. He didn't grab it bad. I was like, get off me. He said, no, come on. You want to meet Stevie? I was like, yeah. And so finally, it was like the Red Sea parting. And who I later found out this magical person was Everett. It's his lead security agent that's like under, you know, you'll never know he's around. And he's done series of crazy everything in security world, but he's been with Stevie Wonder over 30 years. And so seriously, real talk, he takes me to Stevie. He's like, Stevie, she's special. She's really special. And I didn't realize that he was meaning that this person's special because she's got something that is from my country. And you don't get that unless someone of a royal descent gave it to you. And I was like, wow. So I meet him and he's just, I'm hugging him and I'm like, oh, I love you. You know, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, I hope I'm not a fan. I hope I'm not a fan. I hope I'm not fanning him. Oh my God. And so when he says, what's your name? I told him my name. He's like, I've heard of you. His drummer, Stanley Randolph, is from Memphis. And so when I recorded the Science of Completions Volumes 1 and 2, Stanley and a lot of the players all are close friends. And Stanley's been playing drums for him for years. And he's like, I've heard of you. You play B3 organ. Stanley told me that your music is phenomenal. And he whispers, here, I'm going to give you my number. Save it as Steve Lynn Morris. So he whispers his number. And true enough, he says, do you have it? I said, yeah. He said, because I can't say it out loud. I said, I got it. He said, text me as soon as you get the number, save your phone. So I texted him, but I manifested this, y'all, because that day I woke up, I said, something amazing is going to happen.
You actually told me that. Today. For whatever reason, you and I spoke like 3 or 4 hours before this happened, and you said something big is going to happen today. I remember that.
And I didn't know it was going to be my icon, right? So I texted him off of my album, The Science of Completions Volume 2. There's a song in particular that I wrote, but I was paying homage to him from Songs in the Key of Life. And I sent him a message, said, hey, and I sent him our picture, even though I knew he probably would not be able to see it. But I sent him intentionally this song because I knew it would gravitate to him. Why did I know? Because it sounded like something that was recorded at Electric Lady Studios, except this was done in Memphis at Royal Studios. Do you know within 5 minutes, he clicked love, and that's a 10-minute song. He listened all the way through, and you guys, no lie, he FaceTimed me. Yes, he FaceTimed me. And he says, where can I get a copy of your music? I said, oh my God, I will give you my music. He says, I want to work with you. This was last year,
Mm-hmm.
mind you. All right.
Exactly like a year ago or like
A year
14 months
ago,
ago.
a
Yeah.
year, 14 months. Okay. So we kept in touch all year. Found out where Taurus is together. His birthday is on 13th, mine's the 7th. Found out little things like his family's from Alabama. Mom is from Alabama. Moved to Michigan. Okay. Found out, we have a lot of things in common. So when I came out to LA, he was like, well, anytime you're in LA, hit me up. Okay, well, I took a chance. It was the Taxi Road Rally, y'all. And I hit him up. I said, hey, I've been in LA for a while, and I didn't want to bombard you, but, call me. What do you know? 2 minutes later, he calls me. He says, hey, where are you? I said, I'm here in LA. I'm been doing the Taxi Road Rally, and then I'm going to be here a little bit more time. He says, hey, well, I'm going to send you an address. I want you to come. Okay. The address was his studio. And it was just the most amazing thing to see Everett again, which was funny,
Yeah.
and see the crew, but to be in this space that he calls home. And so he says, come on, let's go play. So he gets on the piano. Let's go pick something. This is beautiful black B3 organ. I had to. So we were in there for hours just playing his music. And he turned around and he said, hey, you're actually really good. You're good. Okay. We would go through, we play a little bit more. And so the thing is this. What started off was, Michael, something big is going to happen. This is going to be the most amazing thing ever. Manifested all the way to when Thanksgiving hit last year. I was in critical ill moment. It's one of the darkest moments of my life. I almost died, y'all. Went straight from LA. I was out in LA, which is crazy. I was in LA. Went straight to North Carolina to my brother's house. And the next day I was in emergency surgery in ICU. And talk about manifesting. I don't know if any of you have been sick before, or if you've ever faced life-threatening sickness that makes you think about, dang, if I leave today, this is my last moment. So did I accomplish everything? These were the thoughts that were happening. And I noticed that every time I had a negative thought, it kept on feeling like I wasn't getting better. It kept on feeling that the doctors weren't paying attention to me. It kept on feeling like I was just like time was rolling backwards and I was starting the same day over and over again. So you know what I started doing? I started listening to classical music. And I started listening to things that put my mind at ease. And I centered my thought on this only thought that I thought I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to live, but I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to be home by Monday. Mind you, this was like Tuesday when I flew to my brother and I'm in the hospital. And in my mind, I said, I'm going home. I will be home Monday. And we're talking about blood transfusions. We're talking about this, everything you can think of. And in my thoughts were, I'm going home Monday. I don't care. I will be home, back in Alabama. And when I started listening to the classical music, I started listening to music that calmed my nerve, calmed my moment. And then I centered myself on those thoughts. Don't you know I flew home that Monday?
Well, your brother lives in L.A.?
No, my brother lives in North Carolina, but I was in
Oh,
LA.
okay.
How was I in LA?
So you got sick in L.A. and flew to North Carolina while you
I
were
didn't know
becoming.
I was sick in LA. That's the thing. I didn't
Oh,
know I was
okay.
sick. And so I'm trying to think what was going on. Why were we in LA? It was
Well, the road rally ended like 2.5 weeks before that. Maybe it was the.
no, I was still in LA because I stayed out in LA for an additional week and a half after the road rally. So I was coming straight from LA to my brother's house in North Carolina. That's why I was
Oh,
in
okay. I thought maybe it was the Thai food we ate during the rally.
No, it was the Thai food. It may have been though. I don't know. That's a thought. Michael, did you get me sick?
Man,
But
oh man. Well, um, I gotta say, you're like, oh God, what was that? I think it was a Tom Hanks character, or what? Yeah. Anyway, your life is an amazing story. I mean, statistically, it's only maybe half over. I mean, so I can't imagine where it goes from here. But I mean,
Part of it was because of this.
uh, when you started telling me about how you manifest things, that day you called and you said something big is going to happen. You said it with such certainty that I took you seriously. I mean, I know that you can be like hyper and unbelievably enthusiastic and really positive and just this ball of energy. But there was something about the way you said that day, something big is going to happen. I feel it. I know it. I absolutely believed you in that moment. Forrest Gump, thank you. And I believe that you manifested that meeting with Stevie. I need to manifest having you interview him on the stage for the Road Rally next year for the keynote. That would be awesome.
Let me know. We can definitely.
It's been a while since I've had a legend on stage. I'm trying to. Well, no, that's not so true, but I've had some big people. Jonathan Cain from Journey. Jeff Emmerich was probably my all-time favorite, just because he's fellow engineer. Well, not a fellow engineer. I can't even put myself in a class with him. But Stevie, there's nobody that doesn't love Stevie Wonder. Nobody. I've never heard a single person say, Stevie's okay. No. And he does. He literally lives like a half a mile from where I'm sitting right now. He lives behind my back, about a half mile into a very wealthy, highly secured enclave. That, by the way, during the LA fires in January, one of the fires, there were two big fires going and then a third one started, but one of the two fires in LA County was actually probably a mile to a mile and a half away from the taxi office. And it was heading for the neighborhood that Stevie lives in, but the Kardashians lived there. And I remember saying to my wife, we were out of the country together at the time, and I said to my wife, oh, it won't get to the office. The Kardashians probably have their own fire department. And they did.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I just heard a thing on the news today. They're trying to block people who are super wealthy and live in these heavily wooded, mountainous areas out here that have their own security and have a fire department at the ready. They don't pay them, 365 days a year. But and the city is trying to block that for some strange reason. I feel like, what, if you got a $20 million house, you've worked hard enough to get that, and you can afford your own fire truck and hydrant, bring it on. Anyway, right. That's right. Neither here nor there. But do you want to open it up for Q&A? These guys have been really good. In the letter I sent out, I asked them to keep it on the down low in the chat room today, because they'll be talking about what kind of drinks they're making or what they're having for dinner. I wanted people to really focus on what you're saying, because you have been a life changer for me. You have proved to me, not that you tried to prove it, but just by being your friend and observing you, that it works. And I don't know how you do it, because this lady travels. I mean, I don't know, 150, 200 days a year, you're probably not home to some ridiculous amount of time. So the fact that you're able to shut other stuff out in your life and do what's important to guiding your life, really, it's like you're building your own path, your own road for your life by doing this. And most of us will take the easy way. Well, I admit it. I'm trying to now limit my Instagram time, although I've been researching it for business stuff for real, but trying to limit myself to like just when I'm having my coffee in the morning, and before I go to bed at night. Because if I start looking at Instagram for fun, other than looking for ideas that taxi could use or technical things we should know, you get sucked in. You will easily spend an hour and a half, and that's an hour and a half closer to death that you are
Yeah.
looking at somebody's dog doing stupid stuff. I mean, it's cute.
It's
I
even
love dogs.
better when it's the sad part is oftentimes when you're in a bad mood or when you're hurt or you're going through bad relationships, you will use your phone even more because you're looking for something to cling to.
Yeah.
You're looking for a distraction. You're looking for something to help you cope, and you're afraid to be alone. And then also, if you're going through a breakup, you kind of want to know, well, what's the other person doing? So you become a stalker in essence when you're going through bad times
Mm.
because you don't want the other person to be happier than you. And anytime you're going through anything that's just painful, you tend to electronically soar. Like your electronic usage soars. And it's like people do it because they want, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes. I want to have a moment to get away and detox. And sometimes, like with what I'm writing, it can be so potent and heavy that I need to put it down and go to something that's funny to get me out of
Yeah.
releasing, because releasing is painful. It's almost like you have to relive the events to be able to let go of it so you can
Yeah.
remember it. And
I
so,
mean,
but
you did intense therapy on yourself, and wow, it just blows my mind. Anyway, if you guys have questions, now is the time. We still have about 19, 18 and a half minutes left. Um, I hope you're as inspired by Kim as I am. Every single time I get off the phone with her, I realize you're smiling. I literally, when we hung up the other night, I put the phone down. I was in our family room and I was, whoa, I lost you. Come back.
I'm
Uh,
coming.
well, I hear you, but there you
Here
are.
we are. All
Yeah,
right,
your
there I am.
picture weirded out for a minute. But I put the phone down on the coffee table and I was walking into the kitchen to grab a drink or something out of the fridge. And I realized that I had this giant smile on my face. I had to go like that to like loosen it back up. So you have that effect on me. Yes, Martin Gravel says she's an amazing energy source. You don't know the half of it, brother. When Kim is in energy mode, I mean, seriously, some people are like that because they're manic. She's not manic, but she has that has that level of energy, like somebody who's having a manic episode. But everything that comes out of her mouth is not insane or manic. It all makes sense. So there's that. Anyway, questions. It's difficult. Beth says it's difficult for me to be positive right now. How can I break through to good vibes?
Okay, Beth, you know what? It's okay. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? It's okay. Feel exactly what you're feeling. Like, seriously, if you feel like the world is over, feel that for 5 minutes. Put your timer on. But once that timer goes off, after you felt the way that you feel, then you need to turn around and get a blank white piece of paper and look at it, right? And then imagine that you just got the gift of the world, that whatever you can fit on that space is what you can have. I guarantee you that's going to make you smile. And I guarantee you, once you put down everything that you wished for, what you want to happen and see right now on that piece of paper, after feeling how you feel, I guarantee you, you're going to smile. You're going to be in a better place. You're going to be in a better mood. And then you've got to also trick your brain. You got to trick your mind. When my dad died, I had to sit down, close my eyes, and imagine I'm walking across the stage. It's 500,000 people on the stage that I'm getting ready to play to. And I'm one of the most sought after songwriters right now. These are things I would tell myself. And I would magically go to that concert that I'm getting ready to play and perform, and then I would come out of that moment and feel better. You have to do little subtle things to trick yourself when you're in a bad space. But at the same time, you're human. Don't be so hard on yourself. You got to learn how to forgive yourself and then also believe in yourself, but feel it. I don't wake up every day happy. There's some days that I want to like take out a gun and start randomly just shooting in the air or on the
I'm
ground.
glad you said shooting in the air and not randomly shooting people.
Shooting on the ground so that it goes down. But there's moments when I can be like upset. But I give myself a limit, a time limit on how long I'm going to be upset. If I can't get that out of if it's something really major, I'll give myself 10 minutes.
How do you not get the tape on auto loop after the 10 minutes is up? How do you turn it off?
Because when you're going through this process of weight loss and you see the progress and you start feeling better, it's just like a person going to the gym. After 2 months, you've programmed. See, there's healthy habits and then there's bad habits. This is a healthy habit because now that I'm getting all of this out of me, and then I turn in all of this negativity and store it away, now I get to pull the best parts of me back together and dump a lot of love. Love for me is cement. I'm gluing everything back together with a bunch of love. Beth, it's okay to feel that way. You're not supposed to be happy all the time, but you got to give yourself time limits for how long you stay in that moment. Anything longer than 10 minutes, it becomes a possible habit. Anything longer than a day will definitely become a habit. If you do or stay in the same place of anger, pain for longer than 7 days, I'm promising you, it will be harder for you to break that because now it's an active habit. 7 days is an active habit. So you got to give yourself, for major occurrences, this is me. Now you might need an hour to stay mad, but for me, I give myself 10 minutes. If I can't get myself out of after 10 minutes, I got to go on. If it's something minor, 2 minutes. Feel it, look at it, stare at it. Understand why are you mad? And oftentimes when we get to the point of why are we mad, it's the thoughts about the situation that make us mad. It's not the actual situation.
Right.
It's what made us mad. It's what we're thinking about. It's the things that we're thinking on that make us mad. It's not the actual situation. It's what we're thinking that makes us stay in that moment. So baby doll Beth, you've got to change how you're thinking. Please go through the weight loss.
She says, thank you for your insights. And I have a question here from Gloria Covington. You are an exceptional artist, she says. Are you also writing music for Sync?
Am I writing music for Sync?
Uh-huh.
I am. I've actually had some placements.
Yay.
And the thing is, the constructive criticism that you get and the idea of what it is that they're asking you for and the ideas that they give you, because oftentimes they'll give you examples. Don't copy them, but seriously pay attention to what they've given. If they ask for soul music, well, I know soul music on like the back of my hand. But however, I'm going to still go and look at the references. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to study it. I'm going to look at the time changes. I'm going to change out, okay, if they say they want mid-tempo to up-tempo, I'm going to still give you a little bit of a push to up-tempo because I want you to feel dancing. I want you to feel happy. I'm not giving you gory vibes unless it's asked for. For me, example, soul music, I'm going to put horns. I'm going to put strings in there. I'm going to put guitar in there. I'm going to put a bass in there. Got to put percussion, got to put drums. But my sound is Hammond. That's not traditionally something you really hear in soul music. I've just made it my own. Hammond organ did not really become what it was until like the mid-70s and on. You heard it more in rock, but you didn't really hear a whole lot. And then kind of middle to the end, you started hearing organ. But for me, yes, I do music for Sync. The thing is, you just have to like really interpret and read. And then don't get your feelings hurt if you get rejection. Keep doing it.
You echo what every single successful taxi member I've ever known for the 33 years I've run this company. You guys all say the same thing. So it's very frustrating to me that some of our members, some percentage, whether it's 2%, 5%, 10%, get that. They can see it with such clarity, and it allows them to be successful.
You know
And
why we're successful?
no, why?
Because when we start the processes of our songwriting, we do it without pride. You cannot have pride and be successful. You cannot have ego and be successful, especially if you're building something and you're doing something that has not been done. You've got to drop the ego. You've got to drop the pride. You've got to learn how to network. You've got to learn how to teamwork. If you don't know how to play guitar, but you know somebody that does, you got to learn how to barter. If you own a studio and you want musicians to come and you want people to record and you want people to know what your studio sounds like, offer time. I mean, there's ways to be able to build your team. If you don't have millions and millions of dollars, you have to learn how to be intuitive and you have to be innovative. You have to reinvent all the time. But you cannot do music and have ego, pride, selfishness, disrespect, because you won't get anywhere. But if you come from a humble place, if you come from a positive place, you will manifest like crazy. But even in your productions, you can hear pride and ego in songs. You can't get angry when people tell you no, and you cannot get angry when people tell you about your song, especially a fellow engineer or entertainment legend or anybody that has done it, and you're trying to get to where they are. Listen to them. You got to let go of the pride and the ego, because you cannot get anywhere with it.
Without getting into the details, because we're running short in time and I've got a couple of questions waiting, but I remember the other day, I think Sunday, you and I were talking, and you told me that Stevie gave you feedback, and he said, forget writing about love. Everybody writes about love. Write about pain. And clearly you've got journals upon journals with pain in there, so you got plenty to work with. But easy to accept from, one of the greatest of all time. I mean, literally a living legend.
That's me, sorry.
Come back.
No, I'm coming. Sorry.
Do you have a bad cable on your camera?
No.
Huh.
It's the operator. It's me.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but a lot of times when it's a faceless, nameless screener at Taxi, and they say try this, or you didn't quite hit the mark on that, it's got to, it ain't Stevie Wonder giving you advice where you're going like, tell me anything, I'll believe it because you're Stevie. So I understand, but that comes down to pride, and something that I've noticed is times in my life where I've had a really big issue to deal with. I'll be brushing my teeth at night, more often at night than in the morning, that I note, and I look at myself in the mirror, that 1 second where your eyes catch your eyes in the mirror, and I go into deep thought, and I look at myself and ask the question, whatever the question is or the problem is in that moment, and I look at myself and have this conversation eye to eye with myself in the mirror. And the times that doesn't work, it's pride that stops it. Mm-hmm. Because I'm looking right at myself. I'm looking into my own soul. And if I go, oh, you're such an ass, you didn't get that, you didn't find the answer for whatever reason, and I walk away from it, as I get 2 steps outside of the bathroom and away from that mirror, I realize that was pride that caused me to walk away from the solution. What a dum-dum. Anyway, let's get to these questions. Michael McAllister says, you're an inspiration, Kim. Can you speak to finding your singular sound, especially for someone who loves 12 different genres of music equally?
Okay. That's a good question, Michael. I have to use me for an example. Before I became a songwriter, I worked largely in country music. Yes. Country music. Billy Ray Cyrus down with a bunch of people, sat in a bunch of co-write situations. And I waited my time. But while I was going through each genre of music that I play in and have performed in, I took down little bits of nuggets on, well, why did I like country? I liked the way that the Hammond sits in the songs, but Kim, what else? I liked that it told a story. All right. So when I was working with Ben Howard in the UK and a bunch of other folk artists, I sat down and I said, well, what did I like about folk music? Okay. Well, I like the acoustic guitar. I'm a major fan of guitar. And then I like the kind of the way that the story is kind of told, but it's more picturesque. It's more dreamier. There's a lot more lightness. It's a little bit more of a genuine. Then I went gospel music. Kim, why do you like the gospel music? All right, I love the Hammond, but I love the fact that there's so much going on. There's a bunch of changes, and it makes you have to really, really, really learn how to play your instrument because there's so many changes. You can kind of run off the road if you're not looking in gospel music. And then I began to go down every genre that I know I have professionally worked in, Michael. And then I took the little nuggets of why do I like each one of these genres. And then I sat down, and then Kim Tibs was born. Does that make sense to you, Michael?
I'm waiting to hear from other Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Michaels on tonight, but
yeah,
I have to look at every genre and see why do I like rock music. I mean, why did I like it? What is it that was the behind situation of why did I like this? And I went down every list of where I could see myself because I've played with a bunch from pop to whatever. You have to know the genre. But after I was done, well, why did I like it? Why didn't I like it? And then once you put together a list of your whys you do and why you don't, then you turn around and then you start putting, well, what is my sound? Well, what do I like? Do I play? Do I play keys? Do I play guitar? Okay, so could I be the lead in front and center in whatever it is? Now, if I were to traditionally build my sound, would it be a 3-piece or would it be a 4-piece or would it be a whole 6-piece situation where I've got a little bit of everything? You just have to take baby steps at what is your sound, but you got to take the love from all of the genres that you love, take little nuggets from why you like those genres. And I guarantee you, if you put a circle and put down what it is that you like, you're going to discover your sound.
That's great advice. Michael says, thank you. That genuinely helps. Next time you're coming to LA, bake one extra day on the front or back of the trip. I went to a birthday dinner with a close friend of mine last night at a restaurant I've never heard of before or been to in LA. It was one of those places where every bite you put in your mouth, you go, oh, I've never tasted food before. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't ridiculous. It probably worked out to like $80, $90 a person. So, not terrible, but just amazing. So I want you, and I've said this before, to meet my friend Rob Shirelli. He's my best friend. I met him when he was 20 years old trying to get signed to a record label. Anyway, we live 4 houses away just by accident. We're extremely close friends. And he's worked with Stevie and he's worked with Ray Charles. He mixes all of Kirk Franklin's records. And every time I talk to you, I think, oh my God, if the 3 of us went to dinner, we would have to block out 5 or 6 hours at that restaurant.
Yeah, they would put us out of the restaurant.
So definitely bake in one extra day. All right, here's one last question. This one's from Piano Guitar Voice, which is that person's name in the chat. Kim, do you have a work schedule with a list of things like when you're writing, producing, exercising, playing your instruments? In other words, do you block your time out?
When I first started the processes of trying to organize my life, yes, I was a stickler for 8 to 8:15, bam, set a timer, because I wanted to make sure that I was programming myself to be really stickler. But as I got it, I started treating myself like the mom now that has the toddler that's now a kindergartner, that's now a 6th grader. I'm a little easier on myself because in my own process, I also had to learn that I was also being a little hard on myself too. You have to exercise a little bit of forgiveness in there for you along the way. And so now I've done it so long that after 30 minutes, okay, what's next? My mind just automatically I know what time it is. I know I'm usually a minute or so off, but I'm a stickler for it. Every day I'm still getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Really,
Um,
that's something that all of our many of our successful members have that in common
yeah.
as well. Wow.
I don't even have to have an alarm. I know. But I also know when it's time for my body to rest, I do. And lately, I've now started to pick up being back the musician. But, it will be good for you if you are horrible with time management. Utilize your phone. Go in and make a Google schedule, or go on and handwrite it. I suggest everybody on this live, if I don't see your notebooks, I need to see some screenshots. Y'all send Michael screenshots of y'all's like notebooks or paper, please, because I promise you this stuff works. You think I'm joking? I've got an office right now I'm sitting in, I've got tons of notebooks. Tons of it. This stuff works because, again, if it didn't work, then obviously Michael wouldn't be able to say, okay, I've seen it. But I'm telling him every time I talk to him, Michael, you'll never guess what happened. Oh my God, I got to catch you up on all the activity that's happened. Michael, you'll never guess what. And this is the conversations that we're having. Now, in between there's going to be bad days. There's going to be some days that are kind of like, oh. But that's why this is there, because you're the only person that's going to see this. Nobody's going to be able to judge you over that. Nobody's going to see it but you. So you can cuss.
Don't go away. I got to go get a visual aid to show you. You're going to laugh your butt off.
See, y'all, I'm serious. It works. For real. I can't see your chat, but just try it. Even if you don't know what to say, if you just sit down and just begin, you are really seriously going to feel words and stuff just flowing out of you, and it's going to be amazing. Oh my gosh, Michael's got it too! Michael writes, okay? Everybody, put the computer and the phone down, the TV down.
I don't think I've ever told you about that, but I've written down every idea, every plan, every thought, every improvement, every idea about staff members, about what I can do better as a CEO. The entire thing is in those notebooks, and they literally go back to the day I had the idea to start the company.
I promise you, I've got hundreds of this. Now, this is just a recent occurrence, so this is pretty bad, y'all. The person that's getting wore out on these pages, I'm not going to tell you about it, but it's pretty bad. Michael, I told you about it. But honestly, y'all, all jokes aside, if you want to see the best version of you, take a chance. Tell Michael your success stories. I want to know, after you guys start writing all those bad ideas and the bad moments out, and then what could you do about it? And then turning those moments into little Cinderella or Prince Charming moments. You will mess around and probably start writing hit records. Mess around and manifest the dream career that you're looking for, the deals you're wanting, the doors to be open. Manifest love, manifest abundance, money, whatever. Put it in there.
You are all the proof that I've ever needed to know that it works. I've always believed in the power of positive thinking and so many other things that to a degree I've believed them, and I've used some. I think I told you, every big thing in my life that's ever happened, when I look back after meeting you and having our conversations about manifesting, I manifested all of it. I manifested my first job at Criteria Studios in Miami, in the mid 70s. I wanted that job. I'm going to get that job. And I got that job because it gives you the will to overcome the obstacles that are put in front of you to get the ultimate thing that you want. So I just know that we'll be friends forever, and I would love to start a cult with you. I think we'll start recruiting in next year's Road Rally.
The manifestation happy cult.
But we got to think up something really unique to do at the upcoming Road Rally first weekend in November of 2025. maybe do something in that 200-seat theater, that's like a live Q&A with you, whatever. It's hard for people to understand the value of what you bring unless they hear you. I knew that we wouldn't get as many people for this show today as we would get if I were talking about, the reason your last thing didn't get forwarded. Everybody would tune in for that. Yeah. For those who did, you guys now understand what I know about Kim, and spread the word between now and the rally, because I would love to have a full room of people whose lives can be changed. I mean, it's not woo-woo. Their lives can be changed by being in that room. And it's not that, well, she is kind of superwoman, but it's her giving you the tools to find your super person within. And I thank you so much. I know how busy you are, and thank God the record just came out so that you're done with that. But I mean, literally, I never know what city she's in. Not that I keep daily tabs on her, but I know how busy you are, and thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for being a friend and being so insightful. And I will talk to you soon. You guys who saw this today were part of this. You are friggin' lucky.
Send Michael, seriously, y'all, as you're doing this.
They don't even send me when they get major placements in big movies. We just sent out things saying we didn't have enough people sending in success stories for the last newsletter. And we got some from people. It's like, oh, yeah, I was in this movie and that TV commercial. It's like our members never tell us about this stuff. Never. There are very few. They're like 10 people.
Listen, it is okay to be supportive of you. It's okay to be your out front cheerleader, y'all. But send the stuff to Michael. He wants to know that you're out there and that you're working. And I want to see what amazing stuff happens for you as a result of me telling you the tricks of the trade. It's about getting in there and digging it out and using a pen and paper and being creative.
And next week, I'm swinging the pendulum to the other side, because I talked to a member the other day and my jaw dropped. And I'm not going to tell you guys what the member told me. All I can tell you is next week's show is called Career-Killing Mistakes That Most Musicians Make. And it's a huge, obvious mistake. And I called this lady up and said, you've got one of the 10 best music library owners on the planet trying to get a hold of you, and you did this. So this was Positivity Week. Next week, I'm going to chew you out.
We're going back to negative. No.
That's right, Dana.
No.
Well, we'll find a way to put a positive spin on it. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, guys. You guys hang in there and love on yourselves, but mainly just feel the moment that you're in. Be one with it, but give yourself time limits. And when you're manifesting, be visual. Don't hold back. Be creative, but love on you. If you're going through things, if you're financially going through things, if you're going through breakups or whatever, write it down, get it out, face it, so that way you can do better by putting the love back into you that you deserve and want. Okay, y'all? Okay, sweetnesses?
Yep. Thank you, Kim. Bye, you guys. See you next week.